Oh, you're so funny. I just love your sense of humour. Like, you just don't take life too seriously. Everything's a fucking joke to you, isn't it?
That was funny. And I know that might seem a contradiction because the video is titled "Women Are Not Funny," but they can be. It's just that usually they're not. Humor is a man's domain, typically, and it's why when a couple is trying to decide what movie to watch at night, she's suggesting a drama because she wants the emotions, and he's suggesting a comedy because he wants to laugh. Women just don't seem to appreciate comedy at the same level that a man does, which is weird. Because if you ask a woman, well, what are you looking for in a man? She'll say, oh, I want a man with a good sense of humor. That's a very typical response. Whereas if you ask a man, what are you looking for in a woman? How likely is he to say, oh, I want a woman who's really funny, who can make jokes and make me laugh? That's very rare. That's what I'm going to explain in this video, but first I'm going to make a really quick announcement because not many people actually watched the video where I explained all this, but I have created an entire index of all of my content with accurate titles. It's in the description box. If you want to see all my videos sorted by category with really accurate titles, nothing clickbaity, check it out. It's a fantastic resource. You can see my whole back catalog. Okay, let's get to it. Women are not as funny as men. That sounds controversial, but it really shouldn't be. It's common sense to anybody who's paying attention. And here's the truth of it, is that women aren't as funny as men because they never needed to be. Women have an inherent value that men do not have, especially if she's young and fertile. Basically, there's always going to be some man who wants to mate with her. And so she doesn't really need to put in a huge amount of effort. She has that value already. It does come down to our reproduction. Men are far more expendable. And you can see this biologically. Women have 1 egg a month and men have millions and millions of sperm. So if you want to reproduce as a man, you have to earn it. You have to be that sperm that beats out all the other sperm. It's not a guarantee, not at all, that you're going to reproduce. Historically, did you know that only 40% of men ever reproduced compared to 80% of women? That might sound crazy to you, but do you see how rare it is for you as a man to actually get to have children? Imagine you're in a tribe with 5 other young men and only 2 of you are going to pass on your genes. The other 3 are going to go childless. That pressure, that scarcity is why men do what they do. That is the process of sexual selection taking place, forcing men into certain behaviors to develop certain traits. It's all about trying to impress women. Now, if you're a really tall guy who's really good looking, you've obviously got fantastic gene quality, then you don't really need to worry that much. Basically, women are going to want to sleep with you because they want their children to have the same genes that you have. But if you're not tall, if you're not good looking, you're not strong, then you need to compete in other ways. Think for a moment back to your time in school. Did you ever have like the fat kid in your class who was really funny? You know, like the class clown, he's always making jokes. It's probably because he senses that on a physical level, he can't compete with the taller, stronger boys, but he still wants to impress women. And so he's developing other characteristics to demonstrate his gene quality. We men, we try and demonstrate the quality of our genes in lots of different ways. It can be through a sense of humor, or it can be through creative expression, you know, dancing, singing, music, painting. It can be through business, accumulating resources or social connections. It can be through new inventions or discovering new lands, but it's all basically driven by the same impulse. It's like, hey, women, look at me, look what I've done, look what I've accomplished. Please sleep with me. This is also the reason, evolutionarily speaking, why men are more prone to taking risks than women are. See, women, because they have that inherent value, it makes sense for them to be more cautious, you know? Their place in the biological timeline is essentially assured, but for a man, it's not so. So of course, he's going to take bigger and bigger risks so that he can hopefully be one of those lucky men that gets to have children. A 2 out of 5 chance is simply not good enough. He's going to need to do something crazy, something big in order to stand a chance. And so yes, it's crazy dangerous for me to pick up this spear and then go and hunt a woolly mammoth that could potentially crush me. You know, that's really dangerous. But guess what? If I succeed, if I actually manage to pull this off, I'll be a hero in the tribe and all the women will be like, wow, I underestimated that guy. He's probably got far better genes than I initially thought. I think I'm going to sleep with him, which is exactly what the guy wants. Now, a sense of humor is no different. It was likely driven by sexual selection as a way for men to demonstrate the quality of their genes to impress women, to induce them to sleep with them. This is obviously oversimplified. There's thousands of other motivations, and some of them are cultural and social as well, why we developed a sense of humor. But you understand my basic point here. If women found men with a sense of humor repulsive and hugely unattractive, then you'd probably see men become far more serious and less joking as the generations went on. But that's not what has has occurred, because humor is actually a fantastic way. It's really unique amongst all the different displays that you can do. It's a fantastic way for women to test the quality of a man's genes. Now, there are a number of different reasons for this, but the first is that good humor requires really good observation skills, right? So if you notice that men who are very funny, like stand-up comics, they notice things that other people don't notice, and then they point out things that everybody else has missed, showing how absurd they are, and it's really, really funny. But do you see, good observation skills doesn't just limit yourself to the domain of humor. Good observation is useful in all matters of survival. Men with good observation skills are going to be highly in demand as partners because women want those genes. A man who's funny also demonstrates really good communication skills because the delivery of a punchline is so important. You know, you need to be able to get the timing right. You need to be able to read the room, read the moods and the emotions of your audience and really, nail that. Women want men with good communication skills, good social awareness, and they also want men who are intelligent, and a sense of humor is a great way of demonstrating your intelligence, witty observations, insightful comments, things like that. If you're not following me here because you don't understand all this like gene quality stuff that I'm talking about, check out this video that I made. It really explains all the ways that a woman can test a man, in seemingly normal social situations, but she's really testing at a biological level what quality you are as a man. But here's one that a lot of people don't understand, is that a good sense of humor also demonstrates a really good understanding of logic. This is because a lot of very sophisticated humor is based around pointing out logical inconsistencies, right? Like, have you noticed that we do things like this in this way, and yet when we do that, which is so similar, we do it a completely different way? What's up with that? It's when the logical parts of our brain sort of clash into each other. We're like, wait, that doesn't sync up. God, we're weird. It seems as though the comic or the funny guy is saying something outrageous, but he's actually pointing out something quite insightful. And he's only able to do that because of his keen understanding of logic and logical progression. And that appeals to women because women are looking for masculine men, and logic is a key component of masculinity. That's actually another reason why humor doesn't come as naturally to women and why they appreciate logic in men, because that's not necessarily their strong suit. Women are a lot more in touch with their emotions, but that's why they don't crack as many jokes, because while two logical propositions contradicting each other is funny, two emotional contradictions, not syncing up, that's not funny. That just creates more emotions of confusion and anguish. And so for women who are primarily emotional in their experience of the world, they just don't notice or think about these logical inconsistencies so much. Whereas men, in a highly analytical sort of way, we're picking up on it all the time. Now, at a personal level, women also feel a lot safer around a man who has a sense of humor, a man who can see the funny side of life and potentially make jokes at his own expense, because women do have a fear of men at a deep level, and that's why they want to feel safe around a man. And there's that idea that, if he's a joking kind of guy, he can take a joke, he can make jokes at his own expense, then he probably doesn't have that big of an ego, and I don't need to be so frightened around him. He's going to make me feel safe. I can trust him. His sense of humor puts me at ease. And of course, this simple explanation also applies that women like positive emotions. Who doesn't want to feel good? And so a man who's able to make her laugh is able to generate a lot of those positive emotions. Why wouldn't she be attracted to that? But here's an interesting phenomenon, which is that women can find a sense of humor attractive in a man, even if they don't personally understand the humor, if they don't get the jokes, right? Like, she doesn't have a very well-developed funny bone, and so she's like, I don't get it. I don't understand why it's funny. But she can still find it a desirable trait, because if other people find him funny, then it's going to appeal to her sense of pre-selection. Like, a lot of other people seem to think that this is very valuable and that he's a high-quality guy because of this trait. That's desirable to me now. I want what they all want. And in a really strange way, sense of humor can also be used to demonstrate status. Okay, so if you've ever had the experience of being in a workplace and there's a boss that everybody answers to who's got really bad jokes, but everybody still laughs at him, the reason why they're laughing at his jokes is because they want to, get in good with him. They want his favor. That can be really attractive to women. I think that there's a part of their brain that recognizes other people are laughing at this man's jokes. They must want to please him, make him happy, which means he must be somebody of importance. Whether or not his jokes are actually funny or not actually can be secondary. And of course, there is also the explanation that women say they want a man with a sense of humor simply out of virtue signaling, because it sounds good, right? Like, it sounds positive. I'm a fun person. This is what I appreciate. Look how not superficial and shallow I am, that I value a man's sense of humor. And so when men ask women, what do you look for in a man? A lot of women will go to that, oh, he has to have a good sense of humor. And sometimes it's accurate, but sometimes it's actually to cover up the truths about her attraction that she doesn't want to admit. If you want to see what women are really interested in, check out my video, the 9 qualities that women never admit to wanting in a man, because it makes them look really bad and superficial. And lastly, of course, there are some women, I think that they're rare, but there are some women who don't care at all about a man's sense of humor. They're watching this video right now going, this doesn't make any sense. I couldn't care less if he's funny or not. What are you talking about, Alexander? And you might meet one of those women, but even if it doesn't seem like it matters for you to develop a sense of humor for attracting that particular woman, I would still recommend exercising your funny muscle, because it's an important part of your masculine identity that you have a sense of humor. Being funny is kind of inextricably linked with masculinity, which is why we feel a little bit weird around men who never laugh, you know, who never make jokes, who can't take a joke, who don't even understand a joke, right? Like if there's a man who's just like, I don't understand jokes. Like, what is humor? What is funniness? We'd all be a bit uneasy around him. It's like, man, there's something pretty off about this guy. There are lots of women like that, actually. Women who don't laugh, who don't like comedies. There are probably women who go their entire lives without ever making a joke, not one. But it doesn't strike us as being as weird when it comes from a woman as it does from a man, right? There's not the same stigma attached to a woman for not having a sense of humor. And that's largely because when it comes to male attraction, that's not what we're seeking. And so women just didn't develop it as much. I hope you're understanding that it's each gender's preferences that shape our evolution. That's the process of sexual selection. What I'm saying is that men became funny and funnier because that's what women were attracted to. And so it became this self-reinforcing mechanism that just took over during evolution. But women didn't develop it to the same degree because men just didn't care as much. You know, men were more interested in, is she young? Is she hot? And is she nice to me? That's kind of all men need. If you need a deeper explanation on this whole sexual selection thing, I made this video on why men are interested in self-improvement and women are interested in beauty channels. That video actually went pretty viral. It's worth a watch. It's a really good video. But I want to finish this video with a really important word of caution for all the young guys out there, because I've received some requests recently on Hey Hero, which is where people write to me for personal advice and I give them a personalized video. Link for that in the description. Seamless plug, Alexander. But there's a bunch of these young guys who are terrified of showing their sense of humor, of being perceived to be silly or goofy, even to the point where some of these guys, they don't feel like they want to smile in public because they're worried that it's going to make them be perceived as being less masculine. And what they're telling me is that there's these, you know, alpha bro masculinity channels where, you know, everything's really serious and you've got to be strong and just, you know, have the big muscles and, you know, laughter is for weak beta men or whatever nonsense. I could not disagree with this advice more, okay? Just because you have a sense of humor doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the court jester, you know, the joker that nobody takes seriously. Maybe if you're doing like pickup stuff and you're just interested in one night stands, it probably benefits you to be like all serious and like a little bit dangerous seeming. But I'm telling you, high quality women who are looking for a long-term partner are not going to tolerate men who are overly serious. They need a man who can lighten up, have fun, you know, make some jokes. That's essential. So if you're a funny guy and you're worried that that's going to make women, you know, perceive you as being less masculine, my advice is forget that way of thinking. You don't have anything to worry about. Just make sure you're developing in other areas as well, and you should be golden. The content I'm about to discuss is only going to be available for the next 7 days. After that, it will be removed, so don't delay. Once a month, I am releasing a special educational module that is designed to test your knowledge of gender dynamics, female psychology, and dating and relationship strategy. This video features a real story that somebody has sent me looking for my advice, but it's not a typical video that you're meant to consume passively. It requires your active participation. It operates more like an exam because within the video are 10 questions designed to make you think about the underlying psychological motivations of the people involved. For people people who take this stuff seriously and want a high quality educational resource to test their knowledge, this is it. This video is part of a larger product that I'm going to make available for purchase later on in the year, but right now, as a way of thanking my Patreon supporters for their loyalty, you do have access to it for free, but only for the next 7 days. These educational modules have been wildly popular on my Patreon page. Just have a look at some of these comments from the last one that I released. I did only 3 out of 10. I've got so many things to learn and understand. This is so informative. I really love this format and I've learned so much. I'll read and reread my notes with your answer multiple times. Wow, this really opened my eyes. A lot of my responses were a little surface level. Great content. I got 8 out of 10, but despite a good score on paper, I could see myself missing a few of the underlying motivators in that scenario too. I've even had private messages from men saying that they watch these video exams with their girlfriends and have found it an invaluable resource for facilitating communication and better understanding each other. So if you've been considering signing up to my Patreon, now is absolutely the right time to do it, because after 7 days, this video is going to be removed and you're going to need to wait until it's made available as a paid product. We have a wonderful community over there, over 200 exclusive videos. The value is absolutely tremendous. It's only $5. I'd love to see you over there.